Chapter 8 The Hall of Mirrors. Wolfie took off running toward the palace. "The whole world?" Jack said to Annie. "I don't think so." Annie smiled. "Come on, let's go back inside," she said. Jack and Annie hurried through the moonlit garden back to the summer palace. They followed Wolfie up the stairway that led to the terrace. "I'm here, Nan!" Wolfie called. Nan ran across the terrace and grabbed him. "Oh, Wolfie, where were you?" she asked. "I was in the garden. Oh, Nan, the most amazing thing," said Wolfie. "Not now, Wolfie, we don't have any time," Nan said. She brushed off his jacket and straightened his wig. "I love music, Nan. Jack and Annie made me love music again," Wolfie said, pointing at Jack and Annie. "I'm glad. Good. Come on now," said Nan. "We have to hurry to the Hall of Mirrors. Papa's there waiting for us." Nan pulled Wolfie toward the door. "Jack, Annie, come with us," Wolfie yelled over his shoulder. "In a minute. We'll be right there," said Annie. As Wolfie and Nan went inside, Annie tried to smooth her clothes. The lace on her petticoat was ripped. The bottom of her dress was dirty. Her bows had come untied. The hoop of her skirt was bent. "I'm a mess," she said to Jack. "Me too," he said. His jacket was dirty and his pants were torn. He found his wig and hat where he'd left them and scrunched them back onto his head. "But we have to look for the artist now," he said. "What about Wolfie?" said Annie. "Forget it. We don't have time to hang out with Wolfie," said Jack. "But we told him we'd come," said Annie. "We can't spend our whole lives chasing after Wolfie," said Jack. "Because of him, we've already used up our only chance to make magic, and we haven't even started our mission yet." Okay, said Annie, "but we should at least say goodbye to him and Nan." Jack sighed. "Okay, I'll quit goodbye," he said. Jack and Annie walked across the terrace and stepped into the palace. "Excuse me," Annie said to a servant. "Where is the Hall of Mirrors?" The servant frowned at their appearance, but he pointed to a door on the right. "Pass through the next 3 rooms, then through the great rosy room into the Hall of Mirrors." "Thanks!" Jack and Annie hurried through the 4 rooms until they came to a large door. They opened it and peeked into the Hall of Mirrors. Mirrors hung on the walls. The room was filled with party guests sitting in rows of chairs. Her Imperial Majesty and the Imperial children sat in the front row. Wolfie was standing near the front of the room with Nan and their father. Jack wanted to leave as quickly as possible, but Wolfie saw them and called out, "Jack! Annie! Come in!" Jack started to slip away, but Annie pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Oh, brother," thought Jack, following her. "Watch me!" cried Wolfie. Then Wolfie shot away from his family and hopped in front of the crowd. "Oh no," thought Jack. "What's he doing? Why didn't someone grab him?" Wolfie faced the audience. He placed his hand over his heart and bowed. Then he swept back his coattails and climbed up on a bench in front of an odd-looking piano. His short legs didn't even reach the floor. Wolfie closed his eyes and bowed his head close to the keyboard. With just one finger, he began tapping out some musical notes. "Why is everyone watching this little kid pretend to play the piano?" Jack wondered. Then he realized something amazing. The simple tune Wolfie was picking out on the keyboard was the same tune the magic flute had played in the garden. Everyone in the room seemed to hold their breath as Wolfie played. He went from tapping with 1 finger to tapping with 2 fingers and then 3. As Wolfie kept tapping out notes, he didn't look like a silly 6-year-old anymore. The expression on his face was thoughtful and dreamy. Suddenly, Wolfie was playing with all his fingers. His small hands flew over the black and white keys as he added to the tune of the magic flute. Jack was stunned. He couldn't believe a little kid could make such beautiful music. The sounds from the piano were sometimes light and playful, and at other times heavy and forceful. The slow parts of Wolfie's music made Jack want to close his eyes. The lively parts made him want to bounce up and down. Wolfie ended his concert with a great flourish. Then he stood up and bowed. The guests jumped to their feet, smiling and laughing, clapping and yelling, "Bravo! Bravo!" Wolfie kept bowing. The clapping and cheering would die down, but then it would start up again. As long as people clapped, Wolfie bowed. Finally, Wolfie's father stepped up to the piano. Then Wolfie seemed to turn into a little kid again. "Papa!" he said. He grabbed his father and buried his face in his father's coat. Wolfie's dad had tears on his cheeks as he hugged his son. All the guests talked excitedly about the performance they'd just seen. "I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't believe my eyes. How did he do it? He is so young and small." As the party guests kept praising Wolfie, Nan walked over to Jack and Annie. "Thank you for bringing Wolfie back for his concert," she said. "Has he been playing for a long time?" Annie asked. "Papa has been teaching him since he was 3, said Nan, "and now Wolfie is even starting to write his own music. He tells Papa he hears tunes in his head, like the tune he played tonight. I have never heard that one before." Annie smiled at Jack, and he smiled back at her. "Cool," Annie said. A hush fell over the crowd. Her Imperial Majesty had stepped forward. She took Wolfie's hands in hers. "Thank you for your brilliant performance, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart," she said. As the crowd clapped wildly again, Annie looked at Jack. "Mozart?" she said. Jack was confused. Mozart? He knew the name Mozart. Their piano teacher loved the music of Mozart. Their parents loved it too. In fact, they'd once taken Annie and Jack to hear a concert of Mozart's music. Jack couldn't believe that this strange little kid was the world-famous Mozart. The applause stopped as Her Imperial Majesty spoke to the crowd. "We have witnessed a great event here tonight. I know we will all remember it in the years to come, when our young Wolfgang Mozart brings joy to all the world with his music." "Oh, man," Jack whispered. He looked at Annie. "Did you hear that?" Annie smiled at him and nodded. "Thank you again for your help," Nan said to them. She started to leave, then turned back. "Oh, I asked Papa your question about the artist living here. He said he was talking about another palace in Vienna. I am sorry." "That's okay," said Annie. "No problem." As Nan headed for Wolfie and her father, Annie looked at Jack. "We found our great artist," she said. "He was with us all along."